I think that people must attend the 9 to 5 production at Kentwood Players. First of all, because supporting any and all kinds of local theater is important, especially this kind that is completely independently done. It's not part of a. We're not attached to any sort of municipality or anything like that. God love theaters that are and who have that extra support. That's great. We are entirely, funded by donors and ticket sales and things of that nature. So we certainly are very appreciative of everyone who walks through the door, and we're going to make you, feel like we are doing the show just specifically for you. We have a lovely theater, and we've been there for many, many, many years, and that's great. But it's not, it's not a big, lavish theater. Um, it's great for what we do there, but one of the main things about 9 to 5 is it really is a championing of the little guy, and compared to some other places you might go see theater, the Kentwood Players might fit into that category of the little guy for you, and the little guy just works twice as hard and sometimes gets half the credit, and the little guy has to deal with so much more to get things where it needs to be, and that is deserving of attention and appreciation, and that's what we look to audiences for. So I mean, we're sold out for our opening night, which is great. We want to keep that going throughout the run. We've got what are we 112 seats per show, and we would love to see every one of those filled for all 4 weekends that we're doing it, because it's it's an amazing cast that's given so much of their time, and they deserve to have as many people see this show as we can fit in the door. Hi, I'm Jeremy Palmer. I'm one of the producers of 9 to 5 with the Kentwood Players. If you want to learn more about that production, which is running through December 10th, then please listen to the rest of this conversation. 9 to 5, the movie was originally in, I think 19. Oh shoot, now I forget. I think 1981. Right, it's right in the beginning of the 80s. It's a workplace comedy, centered on 3 women in the workforce in the 80s, and very corporate setting. So I don't think it's ever specified what even the business that they're doing is. It's just a corporation in the 80s. And these 3 women at different points of their lives. You have one woman who is recently divorced and entering the workforce for the first time. One woman who is a widow with a child, who is a kind of long-suffering workhorse who's been leapfrogged over because she's qualified, and watches men just come get promoted ahead of her over and over again. And then a very sought after attractive secretary who is kind of the target of a lot of kind of what we would now refer to as predatory behavior in the workforce, and they all kind of try to navigate the particular difficulties of their boss, Franklin Hart, who is just kind of the bane of everybody's collective existence. That's kind of where we find everybody early on in the story. And that's true of the film and the musical itself. And then it proceeds in there in somewhat madcap, escalating comedic situations, as they find very creative ways to deal with this. What do they call them? Sexist, egotistical, racist, bigot character that is the villain. And all that's true of both iterations. There was also a television show that happened in between there sometime, which is how I remember first, because it was the theme song, the 9 to 5 theme song. But nobody really talks about that much because it's not well remembered. So the musical keeps a lot of that broadly, not surprisingly, because the screenwriter of the film, Patricia Resnick, also wrote the book for the Broadway musical, and just found some ways to adapt that. So the through lines are all pretty much the same. There are songs, of course, including the opening number, which, not surprisingly, is 9 to 5. Certain things were changed, such as like there was a love interest that was added for one of the characters. It's not in the movie, which is kind of a May-December romance, which just is a fun thing for that actor to play with. isn't one that varies widely from the film. I wouldn't say it's, if you know the plot of the, and it even, there are things in the musical that I thought, oh, that's, they must have made that up for the musical. And then I watched the movie, and there's these fantasy sequences that seem very musical theatery. But then I went back and watched the movie like over the summer, and I was like, oh no, these are in the movie. Okay, there's that's a that they just that it, so I think it was a very easy transition in a lot of ways, from a straight film into a musical, because really the elements are all kind of there. So that made a lot of sense. And then you had someone like Dolly Parton, who was one of the original stars, wrote that theme song for the movie, and then wrote the entire score for the musical as well, and then is in it like cameos. You get a DVD of Dolly Parton, and she's part of the show. Like, she kind of introduces it and narrates it. So her spirit kind of permeates the whole thing, which I think is good because the world needs a little bit more Dolly Parton. I really like the music and the lyrics. I think it was great that, so I am not a country music fan myself, and I think it's great that obviously there's more to Dolly Parton than just country music. So she definitely did not, try to make it a country musical, which wouldn't have really fit in a corporate setting anyway. She finds moments to do that. The character that she originated, Doralee, a lot of her solo numbers are very country themed, or have that kind of style to them. But she also just capable of just doing, good old Broadway tunes. You've got love songs, you've got comedy songs, you've got chorus numbers. I think my favorite song, as far as the accomplishment of the lyrics and kind of the attitude and the spirit of it, is probably the song "Heart to Heart," which is it's a comedic number that a comedic character sings about her kind of one-way infatuation with Franklin Hart. The title's a pun, so that really helps. And then she's backed up by the female chorus, and so it's a very kind of raucous and somewhat lusty song done by a very intentionally kind of awkward and comedic character. And it's a pretty catchy tune, and the lyrics are I think are some of the funnier lyrics that they throw in there. So also it's a tough call between that. I'm picking two like kind of villain songs, because "Here for You," which is Franklin Hart's song where he's kind of in his head musing about his lust for Doralee, also has some very funny kind of double entendres and parlance and that kind of thing too. And it also just established him as a very detestable character, but in a very funny way. So they definitely do a good job with she does a good job with those two kind of villainy songs there, which are both in the first act. Our director is Kirk Larson, who is a longtime member of Kentwood Players, and just participant in theater out in the South Bay. He also a very good friend of mine. My wife and I and Kirk and his husband John are known to have a lot of game nights and trips to wine country and things of that nature. So it's been great to work with him. He most recently, his last directing was Daddy's Dying, Who's Got the Will at Kentwood Players, which was a delightful. That was a non-musical, so this is his first musical in a while. And he definitely takes work seriously, even though it's a comedy. He definitely wants always from the get-go wanted to have it feel kind of real and grounded and not be a big kind of over the top type of affair. So he's definitely focused on just wanting to feel like real people and real people that you might even meet today, even though it's the musical set in 1979, but that they still have relatable problems, these insecurities and these hurdles that they have to face. I mean, it's unfortunately a lot of the issues that the characters face haven't gone away in the intervening 40 years when it comes to women in the workplace, in spite of some progress. I think most women would agree, like, there's a lot of this kind of thing that's still going on. And so, that's I think very important to him and his approach to working with the actors and our actors. Our lead actress is Alison Buller, our lead. I mean, we have three lead actresses, but One of our lead actors is Allison Bull, also happens to be the president of our board of directors. So she is just really living and breathing Kentwood even more so than usual for the last number of weeks. But it just speaks to the commitment of we have, I mean, three members of our board of directors that are on the thing, and that is, in no way reflective of it. Board members do not get any sort of preferential treatment. It's just a testament to their dedication that they're going to board meetings and they're all of whom working regular jobs because, as I said, we're an all volunteer company. They are working their regular jobs and then doing their board administrative things and then going to these rehearsals, for weeks and weeks, which is amazing. And that's Allison Bull, and then also Elizabeth A. Boughton Summerer, which is her professional name. We call her something much shorter, but she's also she's our Judy, and then Amy Coles, who is coming back to Kentwood. It's been several years since she's been performing at Kentwood because she's been performing elsewhere, and she's back as our Doralee. And so that's the core three people, three performers that they're on the poster and they're that's in the movie. That was Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda and Dolly Parton. And so very big shoes to fill. And then on Broadway, it was originated by Allison Janney and I think Megan Hilty and Stephanie J. Block, who are all very respected actresses in their own rights. And so it's and they're big parts. They're big, challenging parts, and they've all stepped up to those respective challenges really impressively, as well as Brian Pernat, who was last with Kentwood in Sunday in the Park with George, where he played George. So he's going very far on the other side of the spectrum to play Franklin Hart Jr. And he's doing a great job there. Those are kind of that's the heroes and the villain kind of set up right there, and then just a great cast of supporting characters and our ensemble. We have 19 full cast members, and then we have one kind of behind the scenes singing backup person who's never on stage, and one person who shows up for one dance number, and then that's it, just to kind of fill out the ensemble for one particular number. But 19 full cast members, which is a lot for our stage. It's not a large stage, but they're doing a great job. So we had a very interesting thing happen a few weeks ago through the show, or with the show, that I just feel like sharing, just because it was a very unique thing that got to happen, which is that our poster for the show, as a lot of our artwork for the theater is done by West Matita, who is a very talented artist who works draws for Disneyland and does a lot of his own drawings. Has his own line of greeting cards. I believe they're called Wellison greeting cards. Christmas is here. Look them up. They're great. But actually, he drew that of me and my wife. That picture right there. So he also did our poster, which is kind of a caricature in his style of the original leads of the movie. On the poster, and somehow the poster in our kind of social media publicity came to the attention of Patricia Resnick, the writer of the movie, who reached out to our publicist and just said, "Wow, I love this poster. It's so great." And so that led to us being able to actually have an interaction with her. She won't be able to see the show due to COVID sensitivity and stuff like that, but she was able to. I was actually able to connect and talk with her and record some of it to share with the cast. Just some questions that the cast gave me to ask her, because it's such a unique thing to get the person who wrote this movie and then wrote the musical, and then for her to be willing to give some of her time to just talk to me, who's just a guy, about that process and that show and stuff like that. That was a really cool experience that. I guess didn't have to do with being like in LA, or we could have been anywhere. And she just happened to see the poster, and it, made her want to reach out and talk to us. And then we had that back and forth. And that was a really special thing. I know for the cast, when I showed them the video and stuff, I was really excited that got to happen. I want audience to get, I find 9 to 5 to be, I find it to be a very optimistic story and take, on the, just on kind of the problems of the workaday world and the rat race and the kind of things that so many people, have had to have a part of their daily lives for the last several decades. It's again, it deals with real problems, whether that's wage inequality or toxic work environment, or just sexism and those kinds of things. It takes that on with a very lighthearted and comedic way of pointing out the kind of foibles of these types of problems. And in the end, it doesn't act as if those problems are easily solved. At the end, all they've done at the end is kind of take one particular problem case kind of down a peg. They haven't made the whole system, go away necessarily like that, but they're really true to each other in their friendship, and so I think the loyalty of the characters to each other is just a good reminder that, like, sometimes that's just enough if you can keep just a tight knit group of friends around you and weather your problems together and deal with things that way. That's still kind of a victory, even if other negative elements kind of persist in the real world, I would say. So and it's a holiday show. This show does not deal with the holidays at all, but still, I feel like it puts you in the right mood and frame of mind at this time of year that a lot of people like to feel when they go see an entertainment and stuff like that. So I think you leave feeling good about yourself and the world, and I think that's worth leaving the house for, in my opinion. When I'm in the theater watching a production happen, it's similar in some ways to when I'm a writer, kind of standing in the back watching something that I've done, because as a producer you do feel some ownership because there's always something you did. You had a say in some casting. You really pushed for this actor to get to do something, or you threw out a suggestion about this joke or this piece of blocking or business or something. And typically in most of my work has been in musicals and musical comedy. And so, one of the great things about live theater at all is the audience reaction to things. And so I do love just getting that audience reaction, especially for the early on when you haven't had an audience many times, opening night or that opening weekend, and just both feeling that audience reaction or hearing the audience reaction, whether it's laughter, especially where you might not expect it, or whether it's this particular actor or character getting an especially ardent applause for their number or for this bit or something like that. And then also, you can't always tell, depends on how well the actor hides their reaction to it. But just knowing what that means to the actor, because you've watched them go through this process and struggle for this or fight for this or just work hard and practice and rehearse and to know what that means for them, both because I've been there myself and because I've watched them go through this process. To watch them kind of reap the benefits of that audience reaction is just as rewarding as anything else I can think of. I think that people must attend the 9 to 5 production at Kentwood Players. First of all, because supporting any and all kinds of local theater is important, especially this kind that is completely independently done. It's not part of we're not attached to any sort of municipality or anything like that. God love theaters that are and who have that extra support. That's great. We are entirely, funded by donors and ticket sales and things of that nature. So we certainly are very appreciative of everyone who walks through the door, and we're going to make you, feel like we are doing the show just specifically for you. We have a lovely theater, and we've been there for many, many, many years, and that's great. But it's not a big, lavish theater. It's great for what we do there. But one of the main things about 9 to 5 is it really is a championing of the little guy. And compared to some other places you might go see theater, the Kentwood Players might fit into that category of the little guy for you. And the little guy just, works, twice as hard and sometimes gets half the credit. And the little guy has to deal with so much more to get things where it needs to be. And that is deserving of attention and appreciation, and that's what we look to audiences for. So, I mean, we're sold out for our opening night, which is great. We want to keep that, going throughout the run. We've got, what are we, 112 seats per show, and we would love to see every one of those filled for all 4 weekends that we're doing it, because it's an amazing cast that's given so much of their time, and they deserve to have as many people see this show as we can fit in the door. Theaters like Kentwood Players, I mean, I think it's just important because just that term community, we're in the community. I worked with an actor once who reminded us one night before going on stage, like, just remember, every time you go on stage, it's probably the first show that someone out there is ever seeing, and it's probably the last show that someone out there is ever seeing, whether they realize it or not at the time. And I think that's true of every individual, like, community theater production. That is, it is a gateway, whether it's for kids or whether it's for people who just always thought, I don't know, I'm not really interested in theater, but okay, there's this thing, that's doing a pay what you can show, or that it's just down the street for me, and I guess I'll go check it out. And it just opens up people's lives and their minds to just the world outside them, or the world that's not on social media, the world that's not on just on television and stuff like that. It's a way to connect to our past from the stories that are being told there, and it really, yeah, it's very cliche to say, but it really gives you hope for the future, and all that kind of happens at the community theater level, which is accessible, which is right in your neighborhood. It's in your community. It's not something that's you have to go downtown for. It's not something that's in people coming through town that are going to perform and then move on and go to the next town. All that's great, and all that is also should be there, but all that's also got a lot of money behind it. And the community theaters are usually just going from year to year, just trying to scrape together enough money to do the next show and to do the next show. And it's hard. I mean, everything is more expensive, as we all know, but it's just art. I don't know. Art's always mattered to me. It's been a huge part of my life, again, since I was 12 years old, and I've seen it make an incredible amount of difference in countless people's lives at Kentwood, as well as other places. And I mean, people do also not, I say this as I'm also the director of development for the company, which is a whole other thing I won't go too much into, except to say, ticket sales only go so far. You can sell out a whole show, and that doesn't necessarily mean you are making money off it. These tickets they are nonprofit organizations. We are a 501c3 organization ourselves, and it needs both ticket sales and individual donations to bridge the gap between our expenses and our ticket sales. So there's always going to be a gap there, that in addition to seeing the shows, even if you can't make it to see a show, we would always welcome any sort of donation or support or anything like that. We're doing year-end giving and stuff like that. We're getting ready to send that out to people. It's supporting. I can't stress enough how important it is to support local arts or organizations like Kentwood Players. Hi, I'm Jeremy Palmer. I'm one of the producers for 9 to 5 with Kentwood Players, running through December 10th. We will be off Thanksgiving weekend, but we are running through December 10th, and would just encourage anyone to come out and check out the show. This cast has worked so incredibly hard, and they deserve to have as many seats as possible filled for these performances going on Friday, 2 on Saturday, and Sunday through December 10th. We appreciate everyone who comes and supports local and community theater like us. So please come out and enjoy the show.